Good morning. Today's the fourth day of Tammuz, July 10th. We're starting a new chapter, Hayichud, chapter 10 in Shaar Hayichud, Vihaemuna. And in today's lesson, I feel obviously that I'll put everything in order and context and everything else, but we've been mentioning this numerous times, how a mashal, an example, an allegory, is never perfect. Every time we give a mashal, you can say, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. Yeah, of course it doesn't make sense. It's just an allegory. It's just there to try to give us a better understanding. But the analogy, which is a better term, it's a good term, but the analogy, light, when we say employed by the Kabbalists for the Sfiros, is merely for the sake of our comprehension and not an accurate definition. So that's what the Alter Rebbe is going to discuss today. He's going to try to explain the the light of Hashem, and based on our limited understanding, he gives the mashal about the light of the sun or whatever. Concluding the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe explained, we're on page 75 in the Chayin. Concluding the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe explained that since Hashem is infinitely exalted above intellect, intellectual means are inadequate to grasp Hashem's absolute union with the Sphira of the world of Atzilus, despite them being limited to the particular divine attributes of wisdom, kindness, and so on. What does that mean? So the Zohar terms these attributes the secrets of faith. If we really want to understand them, we have to realize that we can't. And we have to just have faith that this is taking place and this is what Hashem is. Nevertheless, one second, please. Despite the fact that the spirits transcend intellect and comprehension, please put your phone on mute. The Torah speaks as in the language of man, in order to modulate the ear what it's able to hear. So the Torah is very kind to us, allowing us to try to understand it by using our language. Hashem spoke to Moshe. It's not the way we speak. When Hashem says words or thinks things the way the Torah describes it, it's not the same way a human being does it, clearly. Hashem doesn't have a mouth. Hashem doesn't have ears. Hashem doesn't have eyes. But it says Hashem writes everything down. Hashem is watching over us. But it's very different. The Torah uses this language in order for us to be able to understand. And that's from the Gemara, Berachos 31b. And v'lakach nitan rishus l'chachmei ha'emes l'daber b'sfiris v'derech mashal. Permission has been granted to the Kabbalists. Literally, the Chachmei Ha'emes means the scholars of truth, to speak allegorically of the Sfiros. So now the Rebbe brings this down from the Kabbalah, from the greatest sages. They put it into these terms in order for us to be able to understand it better. So the Rebbe puts a note here. And he says the use of the term mashal, allegory, stresses that the allegory and its object are not identical, but merely that there's a similarity between the relationship that subsists among the particulars of the analogy to the relationship that subsists among the particulars of the analog. There is, however, no connection at all between the particular aspects of the analogy and the analog. Here, for instance, in parentheses, the sun's rays. This is we gave the mashal of the sun. How the rays come out of the sun, like the attributes of Hashem and the Ein Sof, the eternal light. So we use the sun as an example. The sun's rays and the sun do not compare at all in any way to the spheres and their source. It's just an analogy, and if we break it down, we realize it doesn't work. But we do it to better our understanding as much as possible. So the analogy refers only to the manner in which the sun's rays are united, meaning related with the sun. This analogy makes it easier for us to comprehend the unity of the spheres within their source. The Kabbalists call the spheres lights, using terminology borrowed from the revelation of light. And in fact, it's called Or Ein Sof. It's called the eternal light. So we think of light, we think of the sun, we think of brightness. But it's not, it's a different form of light. It's a spiritual light. When we use the term light, the nature, it gives us the ability, by means of this metaphor, the nature of the unity of the Holy One, blessed be, and his attributes will be somewhat understood. And this is a mashal, this is an illustration. Like the unity of the sunlight that's within the solar globe itself, which is called not only sun, but also it's called a luminary, because it emits light. So we don't say that the ray of the sun that's coming down here, it's a little overcast today, but sometimes the rays of the sun come and just shine right in. We don't say that that ray in the sun is somewhere inside the sun. We just say, that's the sun. So when we talk about the sun, we refer to it as the great luminary. It's the source of all the light that we know. As far as day is concerned, day, night. Yes, we can, with more modern technology, lights, electricity, everything else. You could light a candle, you could light a fire at night. That's how they had light for many, thousands of years in the evening. But generally speaking, the sun is the great luminary. The radiation, the light that comes out from the sun, is called light. As the pasuk says, Hashem called the light day. No, I said that already. When the light is within the source of the sun, it's completely united with the sun. It's bottled to the sun. It's nullified. For there within the sun, there's only one entity, namely the body of the luminary, the sun, which emits the light. That's it. You don't say in the sun, there's also rays hidden in there. No, it's just the sun. The rays radiate from the sun. Does the word ray come from radiate? I don't know. It would hardly be reasonable to say that within the orb of the sun, there exists two things. We don't say there's the luminary and there's the light. Within the sun globe, it's only the sun. When you're talking about the sun itself, you say it's the sun. The appearance of radiation and light outside the sun would seem to indicate that light exists, that light exists within the sun itself. For if it reaches out and illuminates the whole world, that light is surely found within the source. In fact, however, when sunlight is considered at the stage at which it is found within the luminary, it is so completely identified with it that it cannot be termed light. We don't even call it light within the sun. The sun has no existence. The light has no existence with an independent entity. It's just the sun. We don't say, oh, that's the light that shines all the way down. It's just the sun. So when we use that as a mashal, this is the manner, and even more so, is the unity of, on the one hand, the attributes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his will and wisdom in the world of Atzilus. They're all one. There's no separation. Kadosh Baruch Hu becomes clothed in them, which is in the spheres of Atzilus, and unites with them in perfect unity. Shenimshechu v'netzlu me'ita yisparich al derech moshe k'derech hispashtus ha'oir me'ashemesh ach loy mamish b'derech zeh rak b'derech rechoika v'nifla me'asagosenu ki gavru d'racha midrachenu. So since they derive and emanate from Hashem, just like or similar to the analogy of the sun, light is diffused from the sun. So too, we talk about the essence of Hashem, and the light comes from Hashem. However, when it comes to God's unity with His attributes, it's far from similar, and it's not exactly in this manner, meaning like the fusion of the sun with the light, which is still within it. But when it comes to Hashem, it's in a manner which is remote and concealed from our comprehension, well above our, with the sun, you could explain it and you could understand it to a certain extent. But when it comes to the Eibishter, it's above our comprehension, or Hashem's ways, as Yeshaya 55:9 explains, His ways are higher than our ways. There's no way for us to possibly understand it. We live in a certain dimension, and this is well above that. So what is this all? The takeaway for today is light shines outward, but is closely connected with its source. Hashem's attributes are nothing similar to the sun. However, they're called lights, oiros, because they're also internally connected with their source. So for us, this is the muscle that the Alter Rebbe bring for us to get an understanding and some type of what? It brings some type of understanding, so we could have a relationship to this idea of Eretz Saif and the spheres and the light that comes from it. Have a good day, everyone. Think about it. Ellie's going on a trip tonight to South Africa for Yeshiva's Kayetz, and all the best.